Welcome to the Live Fit Listens podcast, a safe space of growth, personal development, and overall wellness with your host, Olivia Catania. Diving into the realms of all things health, conscious living, mental expansion, and much more, this podcast is designed to help you evolve into your best self and live fit. Let's get into the show. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I feel just so giddy. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Live Fit Listens podcast. Happy 2025. This is my first episode of the new year, even though we're already a month in, but I hope everyone has had a great start to the new year. And I hope everyone has this sense of like renewed, refreshed energy. I feel like there's a lot of pressure around the new year to feel like you need to literally hit the ground running, like sprinting actually on the first and like be ready to go balls to the walls. And if that's not you this year, that's totally fine. Listen to your own flow. Everyone blossoms at different times. I've honestly had more of like a slower start to the new year of just a lot of like introspection, kind of planning, reflection, how I want to like show up differently this year and like the direction that I want to go. So if that's also you, if you're in the same boat, if you feel like you have had a slow start to the year, I'm also right there with you. So no need to stress. I know there's some people who hate the new year and hate the stigma around it and like the resolutions and all that sort of stuff. I personally am a goal setting junkie. Like I love being a visionary, vision planning, setting goals, regrouping, like setting the direction and intention that you want to go. Like I eat that shit up. I love it. So for me, I love this time of year. But again, I don't really see it as this like pressure filled space. I see it as kind of like a checkpoint to check in and say, okay, what are my habits? What have I been doing? Is this aligning with where I'm wanting to be going? And it just for me offers a big sense of like renewed, refreshed energy, like a reset period. So maybe that'll help if you have it, if you feel like the new year has so much pressure around it. Like it doesn't need to be that. It doesn't need to be this big, huge, daunting thing. It just is more so a checkpoint to make sure that you're aligning with the direction that you're wanting to be going in life, whatever that means for you. And honestly, every minute is like a fresh start, you know, like you can literally decide after listening to this podcast that you want to go do something or pursue this or start this new project. So like literally you can restart at literally any single time. It's pretty obvious that I've been very, very quiet with the podcast. I haven't been super active on here. I literally went and checked and I think I uploaded 13 times in the whole year of 2024, which is absolutely absurd considering when I started from the time, I think I started this podcast it was November of 2021. Yes, I started this podcast. And from then until end of 2023, I literally like barely ever missed a weekly upload, like a few of them that I would miss. But this was such like a passion project for me. And really just whenever I would have like a really big revelation or like something that was really on my heart that week, it was just so easy for me to just have that be channeled through the mic and like have that to be something to sit down and like talk about and push out to you guys. And then last year I haven't been super open with it, but I haven't necessarily hit it. Like the few times I have showed up, I feel like I have definitely expressed that like I'm not doing the greatest. So 2024 was definitely a very hard year for me mentally. But it really did turn around, I want to say, like come August of last year. And I just feel like I have been in such a huge period, like last year specifically, I was in such a huge period of like resetting, kind of coming back to myself, reestablishing my foundation, like what makes me, like remembering my power, remembering my truth, reestablishing like my direction, what I want out of life, where I'm going. Like it honestly was a very pivotal year for me, just in the sense of like turning inward and reestablishing my foundation is how I want to describe it. And I feel like now right before I was coming down to record this, I was getting so excited and so giddy. Like, I just feel like last year was such a huge, and still currently, but last year was a huge period of like returning inward, like a retreat period, a hermit period. And I just was learning so much. I really turned to different sources to expand my knowledge, my education, have like mentorship figures, go into mentorship programs. And I feel like I really, like the first 2 years of this podcast, I was so outward and I was so in like an expressive phase in my life. And I just like had so much in me that I wanted to push out. And last year it kind of all came kind of to a screeching halt. And at first it was super uncomfortable for me. I thought something was really wrong with me. I thought that I like lost who I was. I felt like just so many things. I felt so disconnected. I was disappointed in myself. I felt like I wasn't an inspiration anymore and all of these things. And really, I realized that we can't all be blossoming and blooming 24/7 all the time. And I really do feel like I needed that period, especially because I am navigating through my 20s. Like, this is such a transitional, transformative set of years for a lot of us. And this journey of like discovering and losing and rediscovering ourselves to go deeper is such like a continuous process that I think is always going to happen throughout life for sure. But especially right now in my 20s, like there has just been so many things, so much reflection on what I want out of life and who am I and all of these things. And so I'm just saying all this to say that I have learned so much last year, especially around the second half of the year. Things really turned around for me. I really put effort into pouring into myself, doing things that grounded me, that made me feel like I'm coming back home to myself. And then I really made the effort to expand my education, like I'm saying, reach out to mentorship figures, put myself in courses and spaces that were inspiring me, that helped me remember my true innate power and everything that I have to offer. And so I just feel like I've gathered a lot more wisdom, honestly, since last year. I feel like I've grown a ton. Like, I look back at some content I posted in like 2022. I actually haven't re-listened to any old podcast episodes, but I kind of want to do that. And I just really am like, wow, like I basically am speaking from like old Instagram content and like YouTube content. I feel like I've really grown and matured even more. And I'm just really excited to open back up with you guys again. And I really have plans to really dive into the podcast this year and bring back weekly uploads and everything. And I just am feeling so much better about so many things. And I'm really glad that I took that time last year to pause, rest, go inward, learn again, soak up things again, and come back. And I feel like all those things that I was learning, I really was sitting on them. I was really marinating with them. I was really applying them and practicing them. And I feel like I just have more to say again. And I feel more so in a more ready place energetically to give myself again. I think I also, in those, from 2021 to 2023, I was constantly giving, creating. And I'm honestly kind of just realizing this. I think that maybe that contributed to my sense of like burnout in a sense, or like feeling lost with myself, because I wasn't pouring into myself in some ways that I needed. Like I was in other ways, but I wasn't in different ways that I feel like my soul and like development was craving. With that being said, in terms of some updates, at the end of last year, I did get a new camera. So again, for the people watching on YouTube, maybe you can tell a little bit of a quality upgrade. Now I'm able to film in 4K, which is awesome. This is my first full frame camera, which is super exciting. And I feel like this is going to be a big year for me coming up. I really wasn't planning on going through this whole recap, but like, let's be real, I barely spoke to you guys last year. So like, if you don't care, just keep skipping to like the main portion of the podcast. I'll have the timestamps down below. But I just feel like this year as well, there's definitely going to be some bigger changes coming through, like some things that I've been wanting to do for years and years. Like I finally feel like this is the year for me. Realistically, if I'm just being honest with myself, it's probably not going to come through until like the second half of the year. But I'm honestly really excited about that, a little bit scared about it, but as we get closer, I'll definitely be bringing you guys along once things get more like finalized and I actually make like real decisions about it. But I can just feel myself actually going to take some steps that's really going to help to upgrade the podcast whole setup as well. And with that, actually, I did sign with a podcast management company last year, which was honestly so funny because, again, that was the least active year I've ever been on the podcast. And I really took it as a sign from the universe of like, no, you're supposed to be doing this. Like, you need to go back to the podcast. So I'm working with a podcast management company, which I'm so incredibly thankful for. They're really just going to help with like kind of like the business and the back end side of the show, which is really great, really helping us like expand. And I do all of my social media, like I'm a full one-man show. I have no management on the social media end, like nothing. It is 100% me. The only sense of help that I have is like Trova Trip to partner with to run my retreats. So it just feels so nice to be able to have kind of a sounding board, have just a sense of like connection in my business space and like be able to work with someone in that sense. So I'm super excited and grateful for that connection and that partnership. And I'm really excited just to see how things go with them throughout this year. So those are kind of a few shifts that have happened, that are happening, some new things. But so I want to get into this episode. I was really feeling, since I haven't recorded something in so long, I was like, dude, I don't even know where to start. Like and I was just like, you can't overthink this. Sit down, start talking, and just get going with it. And then it's going to get easier each week as I go. I'll get more in my groove. But I was really reflecting on last year and how things, like literally my year did a full 180. Like the whole like first 6 months like was super slow. I didn't really feel like I quote unquote was accomplishing anything. Like nothing was moving in my external reality. I felt super stuck. Like the biggest thing, which was awesome, was that I went to Bali, hosted my retreat. Huge. Like that's obviously awesome, which looking back, that was something I wasn't even giving myself any credit for. But besides the point, we'll get into all of that in this episode. But when it came halfway through the year, like everything shifted. Like that's when so many like insane manifestations, goals that I had set for myself, like they started pouring in faster than I knew what to do with them. And I just want to share why that shift really happened, because it surprisingly had nothing to do with like any sort of drastic action steps or actionable changes that I did like in my physical reality that made everything turn around. Like it honestly, like that was not the root of it. Like my physical actions changed as a result of what I had shifted, but there wasn't like, oh, I was missing this missing piece of like, oh, I just needed to go do this physically and take this action step. Like it was completely and utterly internal, which then sparked everything. So like the internal shift was the root reason why everything shifted. And then that's what kind of had the domino effect in my actions and how I showed up and all of these different things and like what I felt like I could go for and the opportunities I put myself in front of and like what I went for and all these things. So I really want to bring this episode to you because this has been a huge thing that I was learning last year. Because if you don't have these core things that I'm going to speak about, you will always be subconsciously pushing away your desires, or at the very least preventing yourself from being able to show up and step into your fullest expression. Okay. And this is going to go back to a concept that, again, I'm hoping if you're a longtime listener, which I'm hoping like if any of you guys are still out there after a whole year of taking off from the show. But anyways, if you guys are out there, you know how much I speak about how just everything is energy. Okay. Everything is an energetic exchange, and so much can be told from someone's energy. And whether you want to admit it or not, whether it's subconscious or conscious, we are always registering and feeding and having we're basically getting like a read on everyone's energy and everyone's situation. And if you don't believe me, a perfect example is how come when someone walks in the room, you can totally tell like what vibe they're on. Like if they're irritated, if they're super happy, whatever, if you can tell that something's bothering them, like that's their energy that you were able to feel when they come into a room. Or second thing, how come when you are just having a good day, you woke up, you're in a good energy space, you're feeling high vibe, good things just continue to happen to you for that day. Or on the contrary, you wake up, you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, you're not feeling like yourself, you're irritated, everything's annoying you, and then you go about your day and you keep finding yourself in situations that are continuing to annoy you, right? That all has to do with your energy that's translating you and putting you in these positions in your reality based on your own energetic lane that you were in. That's what's causing you to align with these people, these experiences, these situations, etc. So what really changed the game for me last year had everything to do with my insides, had everything to do with my internal world, okay? This is also a universal law. Everything that you are experiencing within is what is going to be reflected on the outside of you, of your reality, right? That's where the super common expression and saying is that everything is a mirror, right? The world is a mirror. Whatever you're feeling on the inside, what they're meaning when they say that is that whatever you're feeling on the inside is going to be reflected back to you based on how you're perceiving your outside reality, how you're perceiving situations, the people you come in contact with, the situations you find yourself in, how people are treating you, right? How lucky you feel you are, how good you feel like life is to you. All of that has to do with your internal reality. And I've made so many episodes on this because even myself, like I still sometimes struggle to apply this because we have been so ingrained in society that everything starts from the outside and then we can then feel a certain way on the inside. Like once we get the promotion, then you can feel like you're worthy and deserving and good enough. Like once you get that relationship, then you can actually feel lovable and desirable. And it's so far from the truth. And I feel like I'm going to be saying this until the end of time, until I'm blue in the face, because it's so like it baffles me at how ingrained it is in our perception of society as humans. Like, we truly think we need these outside things to then make us feel a certain way, to then make us feel that satisfaction and fulfillment and happiness and reward and recognition, when those things that were the things that were wanting to make us feel that way only come to us when we feel those ways first. And that's like the key and secret to manifestation. I already did a podcast episode on that. It's probably only like a couple of podcast episodes back. I don't remember the episode number or title, but definitely go watch that or listen to that, because that was also a huge breakthrough that I had. But circling back and staying on topic, if you're really actually wanting to make your goals happen in 2025, you need honest, true, deep self-love. You need pure, deep, honest self-belief. You need a high self-image, and you need a high sense of self-worth. Okay? All of these are kind of all under the same umbrella of like self-image and self-love. But when I tell you, these have been such a huge driving factor in why my reality has shifted so much. Like, I cannot say a more truer statement to you. I also made an Instagram post about the things that I accomplished last year and how just things shifted so quickly. And again, it had nothing to do with like this missing actionable step that I wasn't doing. It was me shifting my internal world that completely shifted my external world. So if you don't genuinely love yourself, if you genuinely don't believe in yourself, if you genuinely don't have a high self-image, if you genuinely don't think that you're worth it, that you have a high self-worth, your reality is constantly going to be proving those narratives to you over and over and over again until you actually shift those narratives. Okay. And this can be proven in the spiritual kind of woo-woo side, but also in the neuroscience side of things as well, okay? And also just kind of in a very objective way of thinking. Like, if you don't believe in yourself, why would anyone else believe in you? And you can tell when you're talking to someone, you can tell if they have confidence, if they believe in what they're saying, if they're speaking with passion and conviction and pure knowing in their truth. Like, you can tell. We've all had experience of speaking with someone where you're like, wow, like that person just knows what they're talking about, or oh my gosh, that person just shows up so fully and so powerfully, or oh my gosh, I don't even know why, but for some reason I just want to listen to what this person has to say. Like, they're so magnetic, they're so drawing, they just feel like they know what they're talking about. And we've also experienced the other side where someone comes in a room and you can feel their shoulders are hunched over, their voice is shaky, they're not speaking with a lot of conviction and, with a lot of full force behind their words. There's a lot of holes in what they're saying. That's going back to their own energy. And that is also, your energy is going back to how you see yourself. And that is what's getting translated into your energy, into how you're showing up, and therefore how other people are perceiving you. There's also another super common saying that says you either believe you can or you can't, but either way you are correct. Basically saying it completely comes back to your own belief and thoughts about yourself that's going to be able to dictate your direction in life. And this chain can just keep going on and on and on. Like, if you don't genuinely love yourself, why is anyone else going to love the work of what you're creating? If you don't see yourself as important and think highly of yourself, why would anyone else think you're important and think highly of you? If you don't see your value and see what you bring to the table, how is anyone else going to see your value and see what you bring to the table? Like, this was such a life lesson to me that you need to see your value first before the world can see your value. And again, we are so backwards, and we think that once we get the promotion and once the world tells us that we're valuable, once our boss tells us we're valuable by giving us the promotion, once the world tells us that we're valuable by getting 500,000 followers, then we will feel valuable. But it's backwards. You need to feel valuable first to then be of someone in this position to have the world recognize you as such. If you constantly are speaking hatred to yourself, if you constantly are never believing in your abilities and what you bring to the table, if you constantly think that you're not worth anything, if you constantly don't see how special you are and unique you are, and if you constantly don't think that you're worthy and deserving of anything, you're constantly just going to be trying to swim upstream, and your reality is going to reflect those feelings that you have about yourself. And the thing is that there's two ways to look at this, because one side of it is you will be completely closing yourself off to any and all opportunities to have you propel you forward in life. But two, the other side of the equation is you will be in contact with opportunities to prove that you are worthy of love and that you can believe in yourself and that you can have a high self-image and that you have a high self-worth. But if you're constantly not in that mindset, you're not even going to recognize these opportunities right in front of your face, because our brain is always trying to confirm its own belief systems because that's how it feels safe and comfortable. That's kind of more so like a neuroscience lesson there. A great way to prove this: let's say your boyfriend at the time drives a certain BMW and you never noticed or cared about this BMW, never saw it on the street, never noticed it. Honestly, if it were up to you, you'd be like, no, this actually didn't even exist until I met my boyfriend who drives it. Then you two break up. All of a sudden, you're noticing it 5 times a day when before you didn't even know it existed. That's kind of what I mean when I say like these things are going to be happening in your reality already, but you're not even going to be picking up and noticing them and acknowledging them and having the awareness of them when you're shutting yourself off from noticing those things by having such a poor mindset. And that's what happens when you have such a lack of self-love, self-belief, self-image, and self-worth. So when it comes to having a high self-image, you need to fully recognize, step into, claim your wins, your strengths. You need to be your own biggest cheerleader. And I think that unfortunately, we find so much comfort in thinking that someone else is coming to save us because our literal society is built off of external validation and just waiting for someone to tell us how to feel. Honestly, like if you actually think about it, it's so true. Like we are constantly waiting for someone other than ourselves to tell us how we feel. A text message from someone, our emails, our social media analytics, how we did at work, our performance metrics, how the person that we like, our crush, is treating us that day and giving us attention. Like we are constantly, what our grades are in school, how we did on a test. Like we constantly are just waiting for something outside of ourselves to tell us how to feel. And we're just living so insanely backwards. And you are always just going to be a victim of your environment, and you are never, ever going to be in the driver's seat of being a co-creator in your life because you are constantly living in a reactive state, as opposed to you living in a proactive creation state. We constantly are waiting for someone to save us, someone to tell us how to feel, all these things. And you need to say, no, actually, I am in full control of how I feel. I'm in full control of my thoughts. I'm in full control of what I'm recognizing, appreciating, and being grateful for and celebrating. So when I tell you, like, you need to, because everything is so mindset, obviously, which is my biggest point in this podcast episode. Like when I say that you need to celebrate your wins, I know there's going to be so many people being like, well, I'm not like good at anything. Like no, we're not going to sulk. We're not going to say, I just literally can't think of anything. You need to try your absolute hardest, whatever your motive is. Pretend that I am paying you $100,000 every time you come up with something you love about yourself, or every time you come up with the personal strength that you have. Or maybe your reward is that every time you come up with one of these things, something positive about yourself, that you get a free trip, or someone in your family regains their full health. Like you need to try as if your life depends on it. That's how hard you need to try to look for good things about yourself, your strengths, your wins, what you bring to the table, what you love about yourself, what makes you beautiful. Like I can't deal with the like, I don't know, I can't think of anything I love about myself. No, that's not an answer. You're not trying hard enough. You need to realize that all the power is in your hands, and you need to try your absolute hardest to actually write down, think of, pull out what makes you special, what your strengths are, what your wins are, what's worth celebrating, what makes you beautiful, what things that you love about yourself in the mirror, what things about your character that you're proud of. Like you need to try so hard. You need to actually put in the effort as if I'm paying you $100,000 every time you're able to write one positive thing about yourself. And these things are really going to help to slowly over time build up your self-image. You're going to then recognize how special and unique you are. And the thing is, we're all special and unique because no one does it the way we do. I'm the best at being Olivia, and you're the best at being you. No one's going to be better at being you than you. Each of us are our own personal, unique, individualized concoction of everything that makes us us. And there's no one else with that same concoction. And that's what makes us so special in uniqueness. And that therein lies our strength, because no one else is doing it the way we do it. And another thing that just came to me, I feel like there's people listening who would say, yeah, there's only one of me, but my uniqueness isn't in the sense of a strength, right? Like how my uniqueness doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good thing. Like maybe my uniqueness is what's all of holding me back and what's making up all of my weaknesses. But my answer to that is no, that's not true. Because there's something called the law of balance, right? Everything is both good and bad. So just as much as you think that your quote unquote uniqueness is hurting you is the same exact reason why, and in the same potency of why your uniqueness is actually being your complete and utter strength, right? We all have strengths and weaknesses. We all have everything that's balancing ourselves out. And you need to focus on your strengths of how your uniqueness is actually helping you, how it's actually propelling you forward, because everything is always working out for us if you actually focus on that side of the coin. I just feel like people are so quick to just let themselves slip down the drain of self-hate, of feeling like a lack of worthiness, of not feeling deserving, of never feeling good enough. It's like, oh, here I go down the drain. Oh, well, here I go again. I need you guys to be ruthless. I need you guys to have tenacity. I need you guys to be strong and say, no, I'm not accepting myself just slipping down this drain. I'm fighting to be my own cheerleader. I'm going to dig and dig and dig until I find all of these things that I love about myself that make me a strong candidate, that are my strengths, all of these things. Like, I just feel like we need to dig deeper and we need to try harder at the end of the day to actually be your own biggest cheerleader. And that comes down to making the choice every single day. And I also just want to say, like, I don't mean to harp on people, because trust me, I know these things are so ingrained in our subconscious and also in our habitual thought patterns, because that's what it is at the end of the day, like this perpetual self-hate, this never feeling good enough. All of these things are things that have been programmed from past experiences when we were children, our upbringing, and it's now a habit of how we think. So it literally just goes back to breaking a habit. It comes back to creating a new neural pathway in the brain so that you think differently. Like, you're not broken. Nothing's wrong with you. And something else also that I learned that I feel like was a huge aha breakthrough moment for me, because last year I really was struggling of like, I'm not good enough. I don't have what it takes. Like, this is the end of the road for me. Imposter syndrome, all of this stuff. And it just was an aha moment of like, you're not that special, in the sense of like, because I feel like we all feel these feelings of like, everyone else has it going on. Everyone else is successful. Everyone else is doing better than me. And I realized I was like, that's actually such an egotistical way to think. Like, you're not that special. You think that the universe made everyone else have this beautiful destiny and you're the one person who got the short hand of the stick and like a bad hand of cards? Please. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm saying that purposely to sound harsh, because that's what like made me have the wake up call of like, whoa, like, I'm actually not that special. The world isn't revolving around me. You know, not everyone is experiencing success, and I'm not, and I'm the only one that's not. Like, you're not that special. The world doesn't revolve around you in that way. We all have so many different things going for us, but the longer that we don't spend actually focusing on those things, amplifying those things, energizing those things, it's just the more and longer we're going to be holding ourselves back. So that was a huge thing that helped me when I was constantly not feeling good enough last year, was like, you're not that special. Like, it's not that you're the only one that doesn't have anything to offer, but everyone else has all these cool strengths. Like, no, we all have strengths. It just was kind of an interesting perspective, because usually you see it the other way of people being like, yeah, I'm just so good at this, this, and this. And then people being like, okay, calm down. You're not that special. But it goes the other way. There's the other side of the coin of like, yeah, okay, also though, you're not that special to think that you're the only one out of the whole world who doesn't have anything going for you. That's just not true. You're not that special. We all have gifts. We all have things going for us. We all have strengths that we can focus on and amplify. And that's what our purpose for us of being on this planet. That's what our job is while we're here on this planet, is to amplify those things. So again, if you want to actually see progress towards your goals, actually make your goals happen this year, you need to set the foundation of having actual self-love, okay? Knowing that you, like, be kind to yourself, honestly, is what I want to say in terms of self-love. Like, be nice to yourself. Like, I'm so sick of people bullying themselves. Like, honestly, that's what it is. Would you go bully someone else? No. I hope you wouldn't. I hope the souls listening to this podcast wouldn't do that. So why are you speaking that way to yourself? You are the most important relationship that you're going to have until your end of life on this planet. Be nicer to yourself. You deserve that, okay? Number 2, self-belief. Again, if you don't believe in yourself, why would anyone else? Okay, you can either believe you can or you can't, and either way, you are correct. You need to believe in yourself ruthlessly, fearlessly, and that comes back to having faith and having trust, right? That's constant affirmation. That's constant just surrender and releasing control and just knowing that you can move and walk in faith, and that can be enough. Okay. Number 3 is high self-image. If you don't see yourself as important, if you don't think highly of yourself, how would anyone else? How would anyone else? If you're going up to someone and you're not confident and you just have that in your energetic field of like, I don't think I'm good enough, I don't think I have what it takes, they are 100% going to subconsciously feel this. And that it's exactly why when you meet people, you have perceptions of them that you can't really explain. You're like, I don't know, that's just the vibe and the take that I got from that person. I'm telling you, that is their energetic field when they're coming up and talking to you. That's what you're feeling is their energetic space, okay? Feeling your own special and uniqueness is huge. It's going to set you apart from the rest, okay? You need to understand why you are a strong choice over anyone else. You need to recognize your wins. You need to recognize your strengths. You need to be your own biggest advocate and your own biggest cheerleader and actually recognize those things, okay? And number 4 is having a high sense of self-worth. These all definitely kind of all intertwine in one another, but these are like the bigger things, like subcategories that stuck out to me. They're kind of all under the umbrella of high self-image, but 4 being high self-worth. If you don't see your value, right? If you don't see what you bring to the table, how would anyone else? It's kind of like, if I need to put it in a logistical terms and logical terms, if you were going to apply for a job and you had or like present a project to your boss and you had a PowerPoint up and everything, and you were basically saying, because if energy could talk, this is what it would say. You're basically saying, I don't think I'm good enough. I really don't see any of the value that I'm bringing to this project. And I don't really think I'm a strong pick candidate for this project. The boss would be like, okay, thank you for the time. Thank you for your time next, right? And that's exactly what our energy is doing. It's unspoken words of communication that's getting communicated through our energy field. So it's the same thing. Like, that's what your energy is not necessarily verbally saying, but it's saying energetically when you're applying to different things, when you're putting yourself in these situations. Your energy is speaking for yourself, just non-verbally, okay? You need to know your worth, and you need to know that you are deserving of everything you desire, or else you will be always subconsciously just pushing it away and preventing yourself from stepping in to your fullest expression. You need to know at a core level. It's not even a belief, because that leaves room for doubt. You need to just know what you're worthy of. You need to know what you're capable of. You need to be so focused and so devoted and so crystal clear on your vision and just knowing that it's meant for you. You just need to be so rooted in those self-concepts, and I promise you, your world will change because of it. Again, my content did not drastically change. I didn't start reaching out to a bunch of other brands. I literally just shifted these things internally, really rooted to these true self-concepts. I have gotten more brand deals than I ever have in my entire life. Okay, I don't do an ounce of outreach. I don't do an ounce of like cold pitching myself to brands. They're literally just showing up in my email. I didn't change any action steps. I shifted my energy. Okay, I had some of my biggest brand deals ever. I had a brand deal with Puma. I didn't reach out to Puma. I literally shifted my internal world and my belief system and my self-concept and self-image. Literally, this is a side note, I literally was reached out to audition for a movie. Okay, I'm in my actress era. No, I'm kidding. But what? Like, so random. I didn't seek that out. That came to me. Why? Because of how my energy is, and people are feeling that, wow, she's an important, worthy, special, unique, valuable candidate. And that's what's showing up in my energy field. So many other things. I also applied myself to a few other jobs and projects and things like that. I got this podcast manager. I joined Affy. Like, that was a huge manifestation for me. I'm telling you, I didn't do a whole lot of anything, right? Like, once these opportunities kind of came into my field, I took action on them, right? I didn't just sit and do nothing, but I didn't necessarily go out and seek these things. Not saying there's anything wrong in that. I'm just trying to speak to the sense of these things will find you and come into your world, in your reality, when you shift internally. Okay. So this ended up being way longer than I thought. I really hope this landed though. I feel a little bit out of practice, but it felt good to be on the mic again. We are currently planning a new retreat for 2025 that we're hoping to be happening later at the end of this year. I will keep you guys posted on that. If you want more like real-time updates, I always recommend following me on Instagram just because there's nothing as instantaneous as Instagram stories for me. I'm feeling a lot of change this year. Oh, I meant to say this at the beginning of this episode. This year for me, so I got into numerology as well last year. I've always been into numerology, but I didn't know there was something as like a personal year number, and I just got more into it, right? And my personal year number for last year was a number 4. And all of that literally has to do with like reestablishing your foundations in your life, like reestablishing your home situation, like what lights you up, like going back to self, just like reestablishing your life and like setting a new foundation and like refinding stability again and all of these things. And so now this year, because then each year it's from 1 to 9. So like each year it's just going to go in sequential order. So now this year for me is a number 5, which is supposed to be a big year. Like it's an overall theme of your year. So for me, it's going to be like a big year of change and like shifts. And I'm already feeling that happening for me. Like I'm really feeling myself going through, it's obviously been a super slow process, but going through some shifts and changes and evolutions and transformations. And I really can feel myself stepping into kind of a new version of me this year and just shifts overall and changes in my world. In an exciting way. Like I'm excited about it. I'm ready for changes. So if you're curious about that, literally just because I forget how to calculate it. I think it's you add up your birthday and the current year you're in. But if you like ChatGPT how to figure out my personal year number in numerology, it should show up. But it would be a number 1 through 9. And then each year has like specific themes that is going to kind of just speak to like what themes you're going to experience for yourself in that year. So anyway, affirmation for this podcast episode is I recognize all of my potential and step into my personal power. I recognize all of my potential and step into my personal power. I love you guys so much. Here's to weekly Wednesday uploads. I really appreciate you guys sticking around and tuning back into this episode. I'm sorry for my hiatus, but I'm also not sorry, not in a rude way, but just in an unapologetic way. I'm on my own soul's evolution, and I can be unapologetic in that. But I just want to say I do appreciate your guys' patience and grace and understanding with me. So I love you guys so much, and hopefully I'll see you guys in my next episode. Peace out.